Hey, Lee Robinson here from American Sentinel K9. Earlier today I made a video about DNA fingerprinting and pictures used to identify the stud of a certain litter or breeding. and Most of the people seemed to really appreciate that information, but there were a couple people that kind of challenged my views, and so I'm going to explain this process a little further. And in doing so, I'm going to identify 4 reasons why DNA fingerprinting has some fallacies that have to be addressed in the pet industry, and why the pet industry is different than the human industry of like crime fighting or determining the parents for parental rights and things like that for humans. Okay, first of all, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with an objective, competent party taking the sample. All right, people who collect samples at crime scenes are supposed to be trained individuals. People who collect samples at doctors' offices are trained individuals. They know how to take a sample without cross-contamination. The pet industry doesn't do that. Pet industry sends at-home kits, and you have incompetent, untrained individuals trying to collect a sample, and unfortunately DNA is found pretty much anywhere in our environment. So you accidentally touch something with that swab, you're going to pick up some DNA and get some cross-contamination. The second thing, not only are they competent, they also have to be objective. See, a doctor and a good police department or investigator is going to want to find out the truth. They don't want to make the outcome look a certain way if they're an objective person. Now, there are some cases where supposedly that's happened in the crime industry, but you're going to have a hard time finding a doctor doing that for parental rights. All right, doctor's going to be like, I'm not lying on this paperwork. I'm not getting sued for millions of dollars and losing my license and having everything that I own in my family lost and the hospital firing me. That's not going to happen. So, these individuals are going to be competent, and they're going to be objective. An at-home kit, incompetent people taking the samples, and if they're telling the truth, great. You don't need the DNA if you're telling the truth. But when you're dealing with a liar, that's what you're trying to find, right? Is the liar? Well, the DNA kit, the liar's not going to tell on himself. He's going to lie and put the name of the dog on the sample from the real stud. So let's say that I want to claim that this dog on my shirt is the sire, but in real life, Expo is the sire. Well, when I breed Expo to my female, I'm also going to get my cotton swab and swab Expo. And when I send Expo's sample in, I'm going to write this dog's name on that sample. So that marker, or the DNA fingerprint from the sample that was obtained from the real stud, is now labeled with his name, so it looks like him. And a DNA fingerprint won't tell you otherwise. Unless, and now we're going to get to problem 3. Unless there's a unified database like there is with people. See, with humans, you have the FBI, a unifying organization that collects DNA fingerprints from police department and police department, and they share that information from department to department, which shares it from state to state, which shares, or county to county, state to state, and all across the country. And believe it or not, even country to country. They share this information globally, all right? That's the way it works for human criminals, and if you go get your carry license, they'll actually have your thumbprints as well, or your real fingerprints and things like that. This information, the FBI is a unified organization that has control on it, and they have access to all that information. Your DNA when you're a criminal, or your fingerprints when you're a criminal, and your fingerprints when you're doing carry licenses. Your DNA when you're doing a parental right, that's done at the doctor's office. FBI may not have that. They surely shouldn't, but who knows. But anyway, there's a unifying organization in the medical industry and a unifying organization in the FBI criminal industry. That's not the case in the pet industry. And if you think that is the case, you're kind of deceiving yourself, because get on Google. All right. Now, I'm not saying Google is the source of information, but you can Google this, and that is the number of companies that provide at-home kits for pet breeders or for dog breeders that want to do a DNA test on their dogs. There's hundreds of companies and dozens of major ones. So, when you have not only just dozens of companies doing DNA kits, but you also have a massive amount of registries today. You got the AKC, UKC, CKC, ADBA, APBB, the Bonafide registry. Did I say CKC already? All right, there's a lot of registries out there. And with there's so many different registrations out there, one registration might use one company, another registration uses another company. And if you don't like that, any of those major companies and those major registrations, boom, drop down to a small registration and then go use whatever company you want. And when you're using a small registration and a small DNA sampling company, they're not going to have a database to match that DNA sample you sent in with somebody else that might have told the truth somewhere else. If you're dealing with this person's a liar, but that person told the truth. See, because these small companies are not going to share their database for all these DNA profiling like the FBI and the medical industry would. All right, medical industry may not even share it actually, but they're going to look at your specific case in a controlled situation where it's accurate. The only way to catch inaccuracies in the pet industry is with shared information. So that's going to require something like the FBI to control that regulation of information and that flow of information. And the pet industry doesn't have it. Now, the fourth problem with the DNA fingerprinting is it doesn't give you any markers to confirm that that sample is who it's from, who it's supposed to be from. For example, Expo has, in this case, is a black and white dog. Now, if this dog here on my shirt is a picture of Tate. Tate was a red-nosed dog. So if we did DNA fingerprinting, because DNA fingerprinting doesn't tell you what color the dog is, what its traits are, it doesn't even tell you what breed it is, believe it or not, DNA fingerprinting doesn't even tell you what species the DNA is from. DNA fingerprinting doesn't do that. DNA sequencing, however, does. DNA sequencing would tell me this DNA came from a dog, it came from a dog of this particular breed, and it had that color hair. So, and it had these traits, like erect ears, floppy ears, whatever. And so there's many traits that can be identified in DNA sequencing that can say, guess what? He lied. Because he said it was from Tate. And we've seen pictures of Tate. And Tate has red hair and a red nose. And the DNA sequence shows that it's a black and white dog. He's a liar. So DNA sequencing can provide information that DNA fingerprinting will not. Another thing that would do that is just a simple video of the dogs being bred. If you take a video of a red-nosed dog being bred, then I know at least the mating with Tate occurred. Now let's say that I want puppies out of Expo. Well, if I am claiming Tate and show you a picture of Tate, and then I also breed that female with Expo, I'm going to have some inconsistencies in my litter because some of the puppies will be sired by this one and some of the puppies will be sired by that one. And if I want puppies out of this one, but want to sell them out of that one because maybe this dog's worth more, then now I've got puppies off of two different litters, and I'm not going to want to do that. See, people don't want to breed dogs to multiple males unless they're just really, really amateur breeders, or there's a special situation, like let's say a female doesn't come in heat very often, or maybe they want actually puppies out of both breedings, maybe both males, maybe the breeder actually wants puppies out of both males, then they might do that. But when they're going to sell puppies, they're not going to want to breed it to both males and then claim it's one, because there's going to be inconsistency. They're going to get caught. Okay, you can look at the pictures and look at the puppies. So if they take a picture of Tate and then he's red nose, and let's say the female's a red nose, I should have a litter full of red nose. But I got some black and white puppies now, or something else. You know, it kind of depends on the colors. You got to understand genetics a little bit on that. I don't want to get too much into that. But the point here is DNA sequencing and understanding genetics and how traits are inherited and looking at photographs. You can actually obtain information to catch single case event lies. In DNA fingerprint, you can never catch a single case event lie unless it's done by an objective party correctly. And you can only catch multiple case liars when there's a shared database. So with humans, these problems are eliminated. With the pet industry, they're a real issue. Competency, objectivity, shared database, and identifying markers to validate that the label is what it's claimed to be labeled. Anyway, I hope you learned something in the video and have a blessed evening.